Many of you know Randy Cass. He's been at the forefront of challenging ventures, raising millions of dollars, managing billions of dollars, building and selling fast-track companies, and you probably know him from hosting BNN's Market Sense. Randy's always known the importance of being informed and having an opinion. Opinions are good, as you know. His daily show places him at the epicenter of a lot of fast-paced information, where I'm sure keeping it simple, stupid is actually a daily challenge. He deals with financial markets, political events, international crises, geopolitical shifts, economic forecasts, and much more. He's daily talking about the issues that impact countries, businesses of all sizes, and institutions, and perhaps most importantly, all of us as Canadians, citizens, and business people. Against that backdrop, it's not surprising that many of us feel like the people on the roller coaster, it's going a little too fast and it's spinning a little much. Randy's mission is to take today's world and to help us understand what's going on, to strip some of the complexity about what's really going on out of it, and to help us how to move forward in a world of uncertainty. He comes from a fast-paced world, so he's a fast-paced guy, my favorite kind of guy. Please welcome Randy Cass. Hey, buddy. Welcome.
Thank you. I need to start things off by stating that everybody else has come out and commented on how nice NSB has been and how thankful they are to be here, and that would have been my opinion this morning. And then I got here, and I know what my role is. I'm the business guy. I'm supposed to come out here and kind of tell you how things are going, and then I see who I'm speaking after. And I'm speaking after Gabrielle, who's trying to change the future of our country. And I'm speaking after Patrick, who's trying to change the future of our world. And I'm speaking after Amanda, who has a deep sense of forgiveness that I can't even begin to fathom. And I want to thank you for sticking the capitalist mercenary right after those three starters. Amanda, I meant to, she's not here, but I wonder if she babysits, because I can't get my 9-year-old to forgive my 6-year-old for taking the last slice of pizza, and I think if she just had maybe a half hour with them, that would all work out well. Next year, I get approval over the agenda, okay? That's the only thing I'm saying. I know NSB told all the speakers when they briefed us for this not to spend a lot of time on ourselves. You have our bios, there was a nice introduction, but hearing that introduction, I actually begin to think that I need 20 seconds here, because you might not think I'm able to actually hold a job based on how that was introduced. I seem to move from one thing to the other, and to be fair, I actually believe that's what my mom thinks. That is not my real mom. But I can tell you my mom believes and knows that her son was a lawyer at one point, and she thought that was a very respectable career, and it was something she could easily explain to her friends. And now she knows that her son wears makeup on a daily basis and does a show on BNN, which according to her is a station that might not exist because none of her friends can actually find it. So she has her own difficulties with what I do. Let me tell you, mom aside, that I actually, with everything I've done, I really do enjoy this stage of my life. Hosting a daily show, being on Market Sense, it's exciting. It's an adrenaline rush. Every day's different. I actually think I look okay in makeup. You got to get the color just right, but it does work for me. But if you pushed me and asked me what is the one thing that I actually like the most about what I do right now, I would have to tell you is that it's actually on Canadian TV. Because Canadian TV is in this amorphous, foggy kind of middle ground in broadcasting, where if I'm walking down the street, I walk the line between potentially being recognized by someone who watches me, and yet also being recognized potentially by someone who thinks that they know me because I went to school with them, or I'm a distant cousin, or some other thing. It's that middle ground of being recognized but not totally recognized. And the Canadian TV celebrity, that notion is a bit of an oxymoron. If you try and publish Canadian business TV celebrity into Google, you actually stand a chance of grinding the entire internet to its knees. It can find nothing under Canadian business TV celebrity. But why I love that aspect of my job is because I do end up getting approached by people, and I end up getting approached by people in Tim Hortons or on the sidewalk or wherever I happen to be. And by the time they realize that they don't in fact know me from school or from somewhere else, but I am that guy that they see on BNN and I am hosting a daily show, the conversation has already so far progressed that they have no hesitation in continuing it. And I end up in a lot of conversations that I feel might never have otherwise started. And as this has happened over the past 2 years, over the past months, over the past weeks and days, and as I pay attention in these conversations, which would surprise my wife, and if you tell her I said I pay attention, I'll deny I ever actually said that. It's become clear to me that there's actually a common thread going through all these conversations, and it's what people are thinking, and it's what they're feeling. And I'm not here today to tell you what I think for the next 16 minutes about the global economy. I think it's pretty awful. And I'm not here to tell you what I think about stock markets. I think they're incredibly overvalued, but can stay that way for a while. Or to tell you what I feel about our leaders right now. I don't think we have many that are actually leading. No, I, the capitalist mercenary, am here to talk to you about you. I'm here to tell you that the one-on-one conversations that I'm having share a commonality among all of them that makes me realize that Canadians are nervous and potentially even scared. And they're scared of not this, because I don't think the baby's actually that close to the animal, but they're scared of real things. They're scared of losing their job. They're scared of having their house come out from under them and not understanding why. They're scared of things they understand, like a seeming inability to save for their future. And they're scared of things that they don't understand, like a European debt crisis, or what Greece means to them, or how Syria is going to impact us potentially down the road. If I had to generalize, it would be this. People I talk to feel lost. They feel that we as a country, and perhaps even more as part of this world right now, are in uncharted waters, that we have no light, no beacon, no North Pole to guide us, and this really concerns them. And although I am not typically the martyr type, after enough of these conversations, I did begin to feel somewhat responsible. I realized that I am part of an industry where it's actually our job to make things occasionally feel more dire than they otherwise would be. A show where I just came on for 30 minutes and told everybody that things are okay and not to worry probably wouldn't do well. But I do feel like people are really latching on to this narrative. So because I was raised in a traditional Jewish home, and because I was raised with an unbelievable amount of guilt that stays with me to this day, a couple months ago, I decided that it was my responsibility to see if I could start using these conversations for good. This is my good. To actually try and take these moments when I get approached to help people maybe find a little comfort, to provide answers to their concerns. And it was clear if I was going to be serious about this that I had to start at the beginning. I had to go back and figure out what people really needed to know to make them feel better. So I started listening. I started listening with different filters. I started listening in a very analytical way. I started listening to the point where I would leave the conversations and keep a notebook and keep notes on what they asked about and what they wanted to know about and where it seemed like they were really focused. And right away, it became clear to me that the actual topic that they asked me in the original question, the actual thing that they cared about for that opening issue, was almost immaterial. It didn't matter if it was oil or gold or the US or anything else that you can put your finger on. The question at the start almost inevitably just was there to open the door. It was just their way to get started. And the initial topic was just a wedge to get to the broader issues. And there were really just two major themes that became evident, so let's deal with them in the order that they showed up in the conversation. The first one was people sense that, look, Randy, this can't be normal. What I'm reading in the newspaper, what I'm seeing on TV, what I'm hearing on your show, it can't be normal, right? We have to be living in unique times. We have to be living with a level of uncertainty that is completely off the charts. And they would look at me and say, right? And to be honest, I think that some people actually wanted that to be true. I think that some people wanted to feel like although we're in tough times, they are so tough and so complicated that it makes our generation feel special, at least in hindsight. That one day we'll be able to tell our kids and grandkids that yes, it was tough, but we lived through that time and we have the scars to show for it. So I decided to start there. I really wanted to understand if these were unique times, if our concerns and the level of uncertainty was different than other times. So why don't I ask for a little audience participation right now? Because I think we'll pick up some common threads here. Just yell out. something that you think is an issue of uncertainty that's facing us today. I'll start us off. Europe, U.S. government, youth unemployment, U.S. debt, energy, personal debt. We can keep going on and on and on, and that list is similar to the issues I think most Canadians would put on it right now. I think we hit a lot of the big ones. But I wanted to see if that was different. And while we might not feel like a fair comparison as the 1700s, let's take a look at some of the issues they were dealing with in the 1700s. They had the British Industrial Revolution. They had the Whiskey Rebellion, which I'm not sure what it was, but it sounds like it was a lot of fun for both sides. They had a French Revolution. They had a slave trade that started to be abolished. I mean, these are major, dramatic shifts in how people see the world, and I'm sure at that point it probably felt as rapid fire as the things that we read about and feel right now. But if you think that's too far back, let's go to the 1800s. Steam engines, steam ships. You had railroads come, and in 1825 you had Stephenson's locomotive pull 38 cars faster than horses could gallop. And if you want uncertainty, imagine being a horse at that stage, right? You're looking around and all of a sudden your entire world's changed. Morse code was invented. You had recessions in 1810, 1840, 1875. You had panics almost every 20 years, 1820, 40, 60, 70. You had a Great Depression that was thrown in for good measure. And then things that didn't even make the list. You had the American Civil War. You had opium wars, which is probably a little more exciting than a whiskey rebellion now that I think of it. You had electricity, you had telephones, you had lights, you had transformers, all coming at you and invented in that period of time. Let's go forward. Let's get closer. The 1900s, powered flight. First powered flight of the Zeppelin. The Wright brothers took to the air, at which point the birds probably started asking the horses, how'd you guys deal with this, right? You had Marconi make the first radio message across the Atlantic. TV comes into its own. Panics in 1910 and 1930. You had a Great Depression. More recessions than you can shake a stick at in 20, 34, 37, 45, 49, 54. They just kept coming. It was like we wanted them. You had world wars, 1 and 2. You had Korea. You had Vietnam. You had us landing on the moon, or so they say. Zip to when I grew up in the 1980s. You had a space shuttle flight. You had a PC revolution. You had a human genome project that started that couldn't keep yuppies out of it. So we had yuppies too. You had Wall Street greed. You had rise of urban gangs. You had a drug war going on. New York was a mess. The decline of the Soviet Empire. The Persian Gulf War. And that's just a decade. In the 2000s, we had this guy. Right? Remember the dot-com bust? Enough said. Those were incredibly uncertain times. And the truth is that if we wanted, I could really pull a list together that looks like this for any era, for any decade, for any year. So is our current era of uncertainty any more impressive or uncertain than the others? I didn't think so. Now, you might disagree, and you have every right to disagree, but the point is, at least it's an argument to have. And if you're staying up at night or having bad dreams because you think this is dramatically different, it's not so clear-cut. At the very least, you can say we're not abnormally off the charts with the issues we yelled out at the start. Every generation, every era deals with this stuff. Now, some might be disappointed that we aren't unique, that we aren't that white egg, but in reality, I think we should take this as a good thing. We should take this as a byproduct, that uncertainty in reality is just a byproduct of life. I discovered this past week that mold is a byproduct of water in my walls. But you can't get rid of uncertainty by paying some extortionist a few $1,000s to come and clean the mold out, but you can with mold. More often than not, the recognition that we're living in normal times led us right into the second issue, which was the second theme that I found in these conversations, and that was people got sad. Because if we weren't living in dramatically uncertain times, they wanted to know why did it feel like they were the only ones struggling with uncertainty when if they looked around them, everybody else seemed okay. I actually don't think the environment of uncertainty is as disconcerting to people as the notion that they are the only ones who don't get it. My job, on a daily basis, is to appear as if I know something about everything. And I can do that because I'm on TV, and I'm unflappable, and I'm omniscient. And I can do it for 22 minutes a day because I can prepare the 7 or 8 topics that I want to talk about. But some people would tell me that they felt that persona that I gave off was actually indicative of a greater problem for them, that everybody else fully understands what's going on and they just don't get it. Everybody else knows the answers and they don't even know the questions. Well, let me put this to rest right now, because I'm here to tell you everything indicates otherwise. Take a look at my realm, the business world. I talk with and about the best and the brightest on my show every day. These are the ones that are supposed to understand the way that the world works, that have understanding of the economy and how it all ties together. They have resources at their fingertips, minions to do their biddings. They can move and make things happen. And even with all that, they got us into the mess in 2007. They almost brought the entire developed world to its knees. And not only did they get us into this mess, but since 2007, they have been trying unsuccessfully at the cost of trillions of dollars to figure out a way out, and they haven't been able to do it. Not only do the people that we look at as having all the answers don't have the answers, they actually don't have any clue as to what the real questions are. In what I used to do, wealth management, portfolio management, we even actually created tools that we would use because we knew we'd be wrong so often. We had something called a stop loss. A stop loss was where I gave an order to a broker and I said, but if I'm wrong, I want you to sell that thing right away, and then I'd go golfing or something, right? What a great tool. Like, we've come to grips with that we know we're wrong most of the time. Can you imagine if you guys had that tool in your industry? You go to Teresa and say, I'd like Randy, but can you also send Amanda? Because if Randy doesn't really grab him in the first 5 minutes, I just want to be able to swap them out. And we'll do it real casual like, and no one needs to know anything. Sorry, Teresa, I think I might have just invented something for them. And while I think by explaining a couple things to the people that the world is always uncertain and nobody has all the answers, I think I left most of my conversations recently with them feeling better. I actually was left a little puzzled and worse off by that, because I thought to myself, look, if we're all facing the same degree of uncertainty and it's not off the charts and no one has all the answers, why is the world still divided into those that do this, grab a Snuggie and just sit on the couch, and those that do this, just decide that they're going to keep on moving? And it frustrated me. So over the last little while, I've been using my show and the people I talk to and the information that I read about to try and distinguish what really separates the Snuggies from the bunnies. And while this process is nowhere, Snuggies from the bunnies, that's going to be the title of my book, Bruce. You look for that one, Snuggies from the bunnies. And, well, wow, where really bad ideas come from. And, well, the process is nowhere near complete, and I only have about 5 minutes left. Here are some of the things I've learned so far. All right, rule one. This comes from an interview I did with Sir Richard Branson. The guy's a famous entrepreneur. He dives from hot air balloons. He goes into space, spits in the face of danger. We know how he lives his life. And he has this book title, and it's not the words I would have used, but his words are, screw it, just do it. And it kind of says that you need to act before you have all the answers. Say yes, and then move forward. Take what I do on live TV. Every day I show up. I have to find 7 or 8 interesting things to talk about. I never have the option to say, you know what, nothing works for me today. We had a great show 2 weeks ago. Can we just put that one back on? But by doing it every day, I'm forced to get better. I'm forced to make mistakes and learn. Because the first rule for succeeding in the face of uncertainty is to understand that certainty is not the opposite of uncertainty. Movement is. Moving forward gives you momentum. Momentum is hard to stop. Physics will back me up on that. And if you just get in motion, you stand a much greater chance of actually doing something. Lesson 2. Once you start doing something, be nervous, but be nervous in private. Be confident in public. You might not know what you're doing once you've decided to do something. But on July 26, 2012, this guy, ECB, European Central Bank President Mario Draghi, he uttered 2 short sentences that changed the course of the financial world. He said the ECB is ready to do whatever it takes to preserve the euro, and believe me, it will be enough. Whatever it takes. Those 3 words changed the course of the last 2 years. It reaped billions, if not trillions, in financial stability, and he didn't have to pay $1 to do it. It was unscripted, it was off the cuff, it was a response to a question from what I assume he thought as a pesky reporter. But did he mean it? Absolutely. Is it accurate? We have no idea. And we won't know until this whole thing's done. But at a time when everybody else felt completely overwhelmed, he didn't. And that was enough for the rest of the world. A confident couple of lines saved an entire continent for almost 2 years now. I will tell you throughout this entire financial crisis, the single most important discovery that has been made is sometimes just telling people, I got this, is enough to get them to get behind you. If rule 1 was about moving forward, this rule is making sure that when you do, you are committed to the cause, which leads to the third lesson. Once you commit and confident, make it easy for others to come along. Bill Gross runs PIMCO, and he manages $200 billion in fixed income, and that is not him. Do you know how he tells us what he thinks? He tweets it. He gets it down to 100 so odd characters and tells us what he thinks of the bond market. Draghi calmed the world with one line that seemed like it was out of a Clint Eastwood movie, and I deal with guys managing billions of dollars all the time on my show, and the ones that come on and try and make it simple for the viewers are the ones that work. Find your viewer. Figure out who they are and make what you're doing easy for them to understand. Make it easy for them to be convinced. Because once they do and once you get them behind you, that progress accelerates. A few months ago, I sat down with Mark Carney at a lunch. He is our James Bond central bank governor who has moved over to England, which makes perfect sense for a James Bond central bank governor. And while I can't tell you all we talked about, I can tell you I gave him his opening joke, and I will repeat that if you catch me outside, and he nailed it. Mark Carney explained to me the difference in his view between guidance by those who can't control things like corporations or analysts and guidance by those like him, a central banker who could tell you, I will keep interest rates at this rate for 5 years, and he has 100% control over it, which means that he can be 100% certain he will follow through on exactly what he said. No one in this room controls a central bank, but we all have things in our career, in our lives, that we have that 100% control over. Those islands of calm you can execute with 100% perfection. Find them. Talk about them publicly and control them. And when you do that, and when you show those people that are following you that you can actually achieve what you said you're going to achieve, that belief just continues to compound, which leads us to our final rule. And it deals with this notion we all have of what failure means. Remember Facebook's IPO? Shut down NASDAQ, systems got all whacked. They got lawsuits, their price cut in half, everything. A lot of pundits, me included, came on TV and said, this is horrible. They're never going to recover from this. Today, it sits at all-time highs. Failure for everybody seems overwhelming. I am convinced that this journey we just went on to understand what really bothers Canadians at the core of what they're scared about, it's not really uncertainty. It's their fear that uncertainty brings along with it a higher chance of failure. And the irony is, while we can't put a finger on any other aspect of and you have no clue if this failure is the first attempt at Edison's light bulb or the 10,000th attempt right before he succeeded. Uncertainty is not new. It's not increasing. It's not even bad. It's actually a lot like the water I spoke of in my walls. If it's hidden deep down, contained in a tight space, bad stuff will happen because of it. But in almost any other context, it's actually what sustains us. If there was no uncertainty, there'd be no tough decisions for everybody in this room to make, or choices to mess up, or mountains to overcome. There would be no need for you. Without uncertainty, we could hire a monkey or put a piece of software in, and it could do our job. But every day, because of this thing that scares us, we all get a chance to shine. When I was a kid, I used to love reading those choose-your-own-adventure books, the one where you would find a treasure or stop a robbery or go into the cave of time. Every month, I would actually offer up my hard-earned allowance. I thought it was hard-earned. They actually just gave it to me. My hard-earned allowance for the opportunity to immerse myself in a world where my choices mattered, where I got to determine the outcome, where uncertainty loomed, and it was something to be taken head-on. And while sometimes I did get eaten by that abominable snowman that seemed to appear on every page, other times, after I failed and started over and over and over, I ended up exactly where I wanted to be without even knowing that was where I wanted to be. And over the last few months, as I've dug into the concept of uncertainty, I've learned what I already knew as a child, that uncertainty is not to be feared, but actually to be embraced. My name is Randy Cass. Thank you guys for your time.